Hello and welcome to Freedom. This is today's edition of the Youth Roundtable on Civic Space TV. I am Phillip Muliisa. Today, we take the conversation to government approach on promoting patriotism in this country called Uganda, and we say, should government use slogans or actions? Now, joining me in that conversation is a panel of distinguished young people of this country whom I will give a minute to each to introduce themselves, then we go into the depth of the conversation. I will start from my extreme left. Gentlemen, you're most welcome.
Yes, good afternoon to the viewers. My name is Bushanda Godwin. I'm a Ugandan and a youth, and also very patriotic to this country. I'm happy to be on this show.
Thank you. We're happy to have you. Yes, gentlemen.
Yes, thank you very much, Philip. My name is Ivan Agaba. I could say I'm an accountant and economist, and it's a pleasure to be here once again on Freedom.
Thank you. We're happy to have you. And last but not least.
Thank you, Honorable Philip. My name is Kigemuzi John, a student leader from St. Lawrence University. Nice to be here.
Thank you, Kigemuzi. We're happy to have you, John. And we can't wait to hear from you, gentlemen. Now, the conversation we have today is a rather interesting and intriguing one. We are discussing patriotism. Before we get into the depth of what the topic requires us to talk about, I want us to start from understanding this patriotism. And I'll start with you, Agaba. In your view, when they say patriotism, what comes to your mind?
Well, I think patriotism, from the dictionary meaning, would be one's unwavering love for his or her country. And, well, it engenders very many things, among which would include, I think, service above self, especially when it comes to very national issues. Cohesion, seeing one another as nationals of a country rather than tribesmen and tribeswomen. I think to me, in short, that's what patriotism would seem to bring at the back of my mind.
Thank you. Unwavering love for one's country, and in this regard for Uganda. Bushanda, this unwavering love for Uganda, for whichever country one is from, but if we put the torch to Uganda for now, is it the kind of thing we have in this country?
Yeah, thank you so much, Phil. And I appreciate the definition of my elder brother here, Gava. But to your question, I think what currently people are exercising, and more so the young people, the generation we are in, you see, patriotism has a lot of objectives and what you do. But currently, when you look at the young people vis-a-vis the definition of Agaba, we are not doing what you're supposed to do in regards to patriotism. Patriotism is beyond self-interest. Like you say, I want to support someone because I'm going to be given $1 million. But currently, the situation we are in, everyone who comes in an umbrella that I'm patriotic is having an individual interest at their back. And in that, it kills the spirit of what patriotism means as to any person who may think of patriotism in regards to his definition, or anyone who may think about patriotism. We have reached a period of time where, because patriotism which does not have a vision, similar goals, it ends up not becoming patriotism as you may think. People have used those agendas of patriotism to mobilize for their own benefits. And they don't help even because if you're patriotic, you do things that actually even you're not expected to do, but you're doing things because you love your country, you love your society, or you love the people you stay with. But people are using patriotism in a situational analysis. Someone looks at the situation the country is in and comes up with the word patriotism. So in that situation, the state, because the state is also, the state itself is seeing a gap because people are no longer patriotic. So they say, okay, I think these people, they might be genuine, but they forget to analyze the mind and the intent of the people behind that slogan, like you're saying, and every people. So at the end of the day, as young people, as a generation, as I think we have not yet reached the level of patriotism, what it means and what we intend to do.
Thank you so much. When I come to you, John, here, patriotism, the unwavering love for one's country, for one's community, for one's society. How best, in your view, for example, the young people of this country today, how best can they be, or how best can they show their patriotism to this country called Uganda?
According to me, patriotism is the feeling, love, devotion, and sense of attachment to the country or to the state. You asked me that how can someone show or promote patriotism to his or her country? Someone can show patriotism to his or her country through various things or various activities, whereby through culture. And I personally am a Uganda, and I love my origin. So I got interest, or I love my origin through my ancestors, the way they were handling issues of my origin, or my Uganda, is it origin, or my origin, like that. Through the dressing code, the eating culture, the way how they behave in a society, and the way how they handle others, or they take others. So this culture, it promoted me, or forced me to love my origin and my country, Uganda. Another thing is political. I personally am a politician. I can't say that. At the same time, I'm a leader. Because there's a difference between to be a politician and to be a leader. Through politics, you know, Muzei came in power, or His Excellency, or the NRM government came in power in January 1986. And this NRM government tried their level best to see that they promote patriotism in the country. And 100% they promoted it through education and awareness. And right now we have many places where we go, we can engage and we learn more about patriotism. The first one is NARI in Jankwanz, the National Leadership Training there in Jankwanz. And for me, I got many chances to visit that place. And recently, during the Windsor elections, and unfortunately I didn't go through, but I was there as a candidate. But I learned many things during that time about patriotism, the way how I can love my country, the way I can promote patriotism through politics. And another thing is learning more about history, our historical ancestors. Anyone to promote patriotism in his or her country should first learn the history of this country. Because these people, they played a big role to see that we can be in a good environment, or to be where we are right now. So according to me, those are ways how we can promote.
Thank you so much, Comrade Kigemuzi, and that's very interesting on how we can be patriotic. I want to come back to you, Agaba.
Yes.
You see, when you talk patriotism, you're attaching it to a nationality. I love my country. Therefore, there are certain things I should be able to do for this particular country. What are some of these particular things, responsibilities a patriotic Ugandan is supposed to give out to his nation?
Thank you very much, Philip. So I think first on that list would be the obligation to pay taxes. I think I've been here severally, very many shows, talking against the traders downtown, and I've been called harsh. But I think it's so unpatriotic for someone to collect taxes from customers or consumers and not remit those taxes to the revenue collection body. I think that is so unpatriotic of somebody. The other, I think, would be fostering national unity, avoiding things like hate speech. I don't know whether you know that hate speech is so grave that it caused genocide, our neighbors to the southwest. Hate speech is so grave that it's what has caused for donkey's years the impasse between the Jews and the Palestinians in the Middle East. That's how bad hate speech can be. Hate speech brought about apartheid in South Africa. So, anything that does not bring about national unity, I think it's something that any patriotic citizen really should avoid or abstain from. Among others, I think, would be things like joining the forces. I mean, what is a country if its territorial sovereignty is compromised? So I think the most patriotic people are those that will put aside the life you're supposed to enjoy and put that life at risk by joining the forces, keeping Uganda safe, maintaining law and order, and I think the prisons that keep away bad elements from the community. So I think that's what would engender a patriotic citizen, literally.
Thank you so much. Bushanda, you know, he raises very important points, but then also you must know that if I take that in the aspect of being an investor, you are investing this kind of responsibility to your country. I'm patriotic, therefore I'm paying my tax. I'm patriotic, I'm joining the forces, and so many other examples like he mentioned and many more. What then is the return on this investment to the patriotic Ugandan?
I think one thing that we say, I've always told people that we have to speak the reality and speak who we are, what we are doing, and all that. I think from his examples of what is expected of a patriotic Ugandan or patriotic person, any country, whether Kenya or anywhere else, I think he's right. The examples are good; those are enough. But then, the return to such a person is also a very big question like I've asked. Now, for example, on his issue of the tax, yes, it is patriotic for you to pay tax. Also, it is patriotic for the government to provide me services that I've paid my tax for. True, it is patriotic for me to join forces, but also my life I have to get the better remuneration and even better services in forces. True, I must maybe go against corruption, like he's saying, but again, is it just beyond going against corruption, or it is even teaching people who you are, what you're doing? So of what he's saying, I think the government has a cardinal role to play in this angle, because of all things I said, we have few people who do such. Maybe on the issue of hate speech, of course I know it is a very dangerous thing. It has caused very many cases we have seen all over the world. I think even in Ethiopia they have the same thing. But again, as government, the government must pay back to such people. If you want patriotism, the spirit of patriotism to increase in young people, even in Uganda, not young people as per se, but I'm just using young people because of 75 and above percentage, so they take the highest population, is that the government also must be cognizant of giving back the services that any patriotic Ugandan deserves in time, and also you must be patriotic to yourself that if, because for example, there are very many issues someone reports a case, they have stolen my property, you go to police, and they even arrest the suspect, if I can say. But a few days, the suspect is out. So me, the person even who reports, is patriotic because doesn't want the same thing that has happened to me to happen to Phil. But again, for you to go beyond that because of the corruption things that is all over, and then you research a person, your government, also the government must be keeping the patriotism heart within the citizen itself. So it is a win-win. We must play because one, for people to have patriotism or to listen to patriotism very, very convincingly, they must also receive the highest, they must receive the equal measure from their patriotism. Because if you tell me that okay, we're supposed to keep this place clean, but again you see someone is a top government official drops a bottle there. Really, it does not make sense to a common Godwin who is laboring or say if this person can do this in who am I?
You know, you remind me of a very interesting example. We were driving behind a ministerial convoy and a bottle of water came through the window of this ministerial kind of. I've never forgotten that.
Yes. So this is all what was trying to say. For example, you can just slop down there in Parliament and see what is going in Parliament. By the way, I think if you see the whole issue about Parliament, it has killed. If someone woke up and thinks, I didn't work for my country, and someone just watches the plenary sittings like 3 times, may even say, let me do, like people always say. And that's very dangerous because I have been following the issue of rationalization and all those things. You say we are rationalizing the government agencies and parastatals and even other departments because we want to save the taxpayers' money. But then a week before even the apex is done for those rationalization policies and everything, someone appoints almost 300 assistant RDCs. You ask a question. Today I was following that plenary. The Rope asked a very good question. For the first time I'm on the side of Rope. Asked the question, what is the role of assistant RDC? The Honorable Minister ably said, 1, patriotism, 2, to fight corruption, and 3, mobilization. The question is, what is the assistant RDC mobilizing for? I'm not, that's you, if you can say that it is NRM. I should be, it's a disclaimer, that's not me. Then, patriotism, you mean the RDCs you're having, because the role of RDCs are very clear in the Constitution and everywhere. RDCs, for RDC is a district like a president seated there. You mean those RDCs, it's like showing that RDCs have failed their role. Or the RDCs themselves, they are not patriotic. Then why shouldn't we reshuffle the RDCs and have the new RDCs? And because those assistants are going to be paid money.
True.
And then we are trying to make sure that we reduce the expenses of this government. So you're deploying one. Otherwise, I'm waiting to hear from her statement. I think the speaker directed her to bring a statement tomorrow and tell the parliament what exactly is expected of an assistant RDC and what were the procedures of appointing assistant RDCs.
Very interesting. 300 of them appointed to fill in those gaps. But like he says, we wait to hear from them. John,
Yes.
you see, the 2 gentlemen do us justice in telling us, 1, what we expect from a patriotic Ugandan, but also what the state or government should return to this Ugandan in that aspect. In your assessment, in your view, how are Ugandans faring in fulfilling their obligation, and how is government responding to providing the services it's supposed to provide to these people?
Thank you, my Mr. Moderator. On that case, for me, for sure, government at times government have failed to fulfill their obligation of a citizen. Whereby, as any citizen, you can right now we are in the strikes of these traders, increase, because for me I don't know even that increase, what it means. But according, I did a research and they told me that I was studying in macroeconomics, and the lecturer told me that phrase is international tax, that every country is paying it. But you can see at times, even traders or we citizens, government can force us to strike like that way. But I have a point here whereby even we, I'm NRM support, I can't say, but even we citizens, we need some recognitions and awareness through getting better services. When I get a better service, this can motivate me or promote me to love my country or my culture and to promote the patriotism. But you can't tell me early in the morning to promote patriotism without getting to promote the patriotism. Yet tomorrow I'm suffering with many things. I'm suffering with tuition. My parents are suffering. My relatives are suffering. That's very difficult to force any citizen to promote patriotism. So on that case, the government should promote many things which can force we citizens to love our country. Through like the way you can see the students struggling with tuition, many, and someone can come and tell you that person doesn't want to study, but someone can be wanting to study but lack of tuition. This government should promote the government loan schemes, which can promote these students, like the people with special needs. Do you know that there are many people with special needs outside there which are not getting education and they are behind there? This is what their parents hiding them to be there. Yet, even we people with special needs, we can do other people what we can do, other people can do. So, on that case, because I got a chance to face those people, because I'm representing PWDs. I'm representing PWDs. I got a chance to meet many special needs people outside there, and those people are suffering, and I can't wake up tomorrow and tell that person to promote patriotism, yet he or she is suffering. So government should get the scholarships to we people with special needs or to other people, not I, to get that love for the patriotism. Because I heard that in Ghana, is it Ghana? They are promoting that, like their education fees or the tuition structures are low. They give them some percentages for them to enable them to attend education or to go to school. So my point was recognition and awareness to promote anyone to love his or her country. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I think it is a very important point. Government looking into providing incentives for people with special needs to make sure they're also able to get a decent education, a decent living, so that they can also compete equally for the opportunities that are there in the world. I want to come back to you, Agaba. You know, earlier you mentioned about joining forces as one of the things one does to show they're patriotic. And one of the realities that usually come up in our countries, and it's been very prevalent on the African continent, different groups emerge and they all claim they are the patriotic group. You have a leadership in power, another group emerges, they go to the bush, they say, we think the people in power are not patriotic, and it is us that are patriotic. Let us fight them as a means of showing our patriotism to this country, and indeed, we need to take that power. And of course, the people in power oftentimes call these ones rebels, terrorists, hooligans, whatever they choose to call them. Where is the thin line? And at what point should people choose to disobey authority as a means of patriotism to their country?
Very tough question, but thank you. I'm going to answer your question this way. You see, politics and patriotism are one and the same. You could call them bedfellows. Now, you see, politics has had a huge paradigm shift from what it used to be to what it is today. So to examine politics from the origins, politics was essentially a conversation around how to leverage the factors of production, which is land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship, to improve the condition of the ordinary man. That's what politics was about. That's what Museveni usually calls or refers to as the mass line. Now, politics changed. Politics changed as a result of very many world events. I mean, we had the World War II, and then after the World War II, League of Nations was disbanded, we had UN, and then we've had an emergence of all these groups that claim to be the headmasters, all the whips of what a politics or what a democracy should be. And this has eventually influenced what the thinking of, say, the masses have, especially when it comes to politics. And it eventually trickles down to how patriotic or how much love they have for their country. So, among the groups that emerged was the feminists. Yeah? This called for equal representation in terms of gender at all levels of politics. Then the other group that emerged was the radicals. And that's how you'll have things like extreme right, extreme left, center right, center left. So politics has changed. The politics that conjured or stirred patriotism among the ordinary man was the original one that focused on the factors of production, and because it spoke to the ordinary man themselves, they found it easy to relate with and therefore loved their country more. And this is why, and I think all of you here can bail me out, that long ago, or what you'd say, the politics of the 60s, politics pre-independence, had more patriots than it has today. Why? Because politics then was still, again, along the original line, the mass line. But then politics eventually became politics of the elite line. And this eventually had so much influence on how our political parties at independence were formed. That DP was for the Catholics. UPC was for the Protestants. And then we had the Kabaka Yeka that was also simply peddling someone's interests in Mengo. So, how do you build or how do you foster national unity with such groups, each peddling their own interests and the nation's interests are put in a bias? So, I would like maybe to very, very lastly say that patriotism is a can we've been kicking down the road all this time. And we are to examine where the rain started beating us. I think we ought to peel the onion. You know, whenever you're peeling an onion, you begin with the scale leaves, then you go to the fleshy leaves, to eventually reach the bulb, the center of that onion. So it's a very wonderful conversation, and I think I'll have to just stop at that.
Thank you so much. Godwin, you know, we've discussed all these fundamentals of patriotism, but now we want to come direct to the government, the NRM government, 38 years down the road, is it a patriotic leadership? Is it a patriotic government? Do they stay right, on course to the ideals of patriotism in this country, in your view?
Thank you so much for that question. But you see, also patriotism evolves as the world evolves. One, NRM 38 years, I would say that it has been in power. Is it still on the right course of patriotism, like it said when it was in the bush in 1986? You see, patriotism can be in very many angles, apart from us discussing the aspects. By then, the real patriotism that the president was telling the whole country was about politics, the kind of politics we had in the leadership in this country. That was almost his cardinal role as to why he went to the bush. But again, along the way, when they captured power, when you go through the 10-point program, he again incorporated the issue of economic aspect, where you have had him all the time talking about how Uganda was an enclave economy, and how he has stepped from this to this, and he always goes to sector per sector, showing the progress. That was the kind of patriotism for him in terms of leadership and the kind of politics we had. When I want to assess NRM in terms of patriotism, I can say, by and large, it has tried its best. Of course, there's no government which can have 100% perfections in all aspects. When it comes to stable leadership, I think Uganda is scoring. However much people will say, you see here, there's this, but also leadership and politics, they are always the same. So for the 5 terms, I think, right now, 5 or 6, 5 terms that he has been in, from 1986 up to current, I think we have had a stable country in terms of leadership, and not those days when we used to have one president in a week and then the following day we have this one. And the reason why, like Agaba said, the political parties were so much anchored on tribes, they were anchored on religions, and that was causing a problem, supremacy. I want, this time if it is a Catholic, next time an Anglican must put a pressure. Now this is Kabaka Yekamengo, question has to be answered, and all that. But then when NRM came, I think it did not look into who is a Catholic, who is an Anglican, who is a Muganda, who is not a Muganda. It wanted a national cohesion in terms of leadership and politics, that if you want to stand to be a leader of this country, you shouldn't come with a region mind or to come with a tribal mind. Come with a nationalistic mind. And for that, in that line, NRM has scored. You can believe in me, because that's, you see FDC, you can't tell if whether FDC is Catholic or is an Anglican or is what. It cuts across. Even I have seen the current opposition, NUP is trying to go even to other regions. It has seen that we need to shift the gears of kind of tribes, of region, and go abroad, and this is national politics. I think NRM has given a shift and a trajectory to such political parties. For example, you know that DP was, like he said, was so much of Catholics. But you see, we have DP supporters in Western. You have DP supporters. You can, someone is a Muslim and is a DP supporter and all that. So I think political parties appreciate the fact that actually should shift from the region, tribe, to nationalistic level. Now, but now where I come in, and also very many programs are being raised up. For example, you know, there is NARI. However much people always want to politicize it, say it is NRM. But I think NARI does not segregate who goes there. Whether you're in opposition, because it is not NRM centered, it is a national leadership institute. This is NARI in Chankwanzi. Anyone would go there. But when you reach there, I got a chance to go there last the election for UNSA, like he was saying. They're not talking about of how NRM should. Actually, for me, what my interest was, what is in NARI exactly when you reach there. But from what I was hearing, the leadership of NARI and the director NARI, Brigadier Chisembo, I think he was telling us about the geography of Uganda and how Uganda is and what it is and what it's supposed to be. And all their emphasis was that they were clinging on to things of living hate speech, like he said. We must respect each other, irrespective of political parties you belong to, because this country doesn't belong to either NRM or DP or FDC, it belongs to all of us. It is a unison of all political parties. So I think that's a stage that NRM has reached. Then I want to look into the areas of, we have patriotism clubs in secondary schools and even some universities. They are there. But what the problem that we have as young people, not until, and these patriotism clubs are not anchored on political parties. Just that is a mindset we have as people thinking that anything that the government initiates, it's anchored within for NRM. But you remember that even tomorrow if DP becomes the ruling party in this country, it will not kill patriotism within people. So should we say that if DP wins and becomes the ruling party in this country, should we, all of us in patriotic clubs, quit and wait for another regime for maybe say, now this time for DP we have this and this. So I think really for the terms of patriotism, it has done its best, though there are still loopholes, I can say, but those loopholes can also be devised and found, and we find solutions for such problems.
Thank you so much. If I come back to you, John Kigemuzi, he does score the NRM quite well in terms of maintaining the ideals of patriotism. And earlier you did talk to us about services, how the NRM is faring on providing services to its people. What then arises in this particular context is the fact that now you have a leadership that is very much aware of what patriotism is, that is, if I say, committed to ensuring a patriotic display of leadership in this country, but then doesn't match the services on ground. Where is the missing link? Where are we failing to connect the two?
Thank you very much, sir. Yeah. According to His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, he's a good man and he loves his country. But the problem is the people down, all those people who appoint, the people being appointed by him, they are the one who are disorganizing everything. But His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni is a man who loves his country.
Then one would ask, why does he appoint people that will disorganize his love for the country?
Even you, when you have been appointed, right now you can see that you are a good man, but after all entering the office, characters change. Cause for me I can say that we still need a lot of we need a lot of education about patriotism, because a person can be yearning for that job, but after all being appointed and enters the office, everything being spoiled because of money. And our generation is all about money. So people, or we, because even me, I'm under youth, we youth, we should learn that even if money is not there, everything can. Recently I was in NAD in elections, and I contested as a secretary for special needs. But all people, when they were asking, my voters were asking about Mugati. So this generation is all about Mugati, which is money. In our daily life, they call it Mugati. But I reached where I served the money there in Nali. But I reached at the end when
You can't serve anymore.
because we went there in the period of voting and people voted. But I ended up when I'm getting 14 votes. Yeah, I gave a lot of money there. But my opponent got 80, but I saved a lot of money there.
So the money did not work.
Didn't work.
Thank you. This generation is so much about money, but they do not actually know how best to put use to that
And
money.
even what I can advise all His Excellence to be keen when he's appointing those people. Because many of them, they have been appointed in their mind they need money. So we young generations, we should stop that. Even if money is not there, we can survive. Because those people, they are being paid, they get salary by those people. They're not satisfied with that salary. So we should be.
Thank you.
That idea of that
Thank you, Ndugu Kigemuzi, and I think that was injustice to those people that really took our money and you did not act in line of that money. Gentlemen, thank you for those amazing conversations. The Youth Roundtable takes a very short break and we shall be right back.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create and publish digital media or to access and use computers, other electronic devices and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
You are still on Uganda's leading freedom platform, the Civic Space TV, and this is the Youth Roundtable on Civic Space TV. I am Phillip Muliisa. Today, we take the conversation to patriotism. We are discussing how best should government implement the call, the desire to have patriotic citizens of this country, but also patriotic delivery of services. Now, joining me in that conversation is Bushanda Godwin, Mr. Agaba here, and Kigemuzi John. And where we left off the conversation was purely into patriotism, how government is faring and trying to make sure we are on the right track as citizens, as government, its officials, and the display of things across the board. Now, Agaba, I want to engage you. You see, we are discussing this particular area, very interesting, patriotism, love your country, unwavering. You called it devotional love for the country. One of the challenges, major challenges we've had in this country that have halted development is corruption. Corruption, misuse of office, misappropriation, across the board, from the top, bottom down. I suspect that by the time someone interests themselves in becoming a leader of a particular community, they should have that community in the best interest. They should love that community. You come out to serve that community because you love it. Along the way, you are given money to put up a road for that community. The money disappears in your pockets. Along the way, you are given money to put up a hospital. The hospital is nowhere to be seen. And you still claim to be the leader of that community. What is happening between leadership as we know it traditionally, patriotic leadership, and the kind of leaders we have today? What is the challenge? what happened to the patriotic principles in them that they are not able to deliver for their communities?
Well, thank you very much, Philip. Now, I think patriotism is or can be seen from two angles. Oh, sorry, I meant to say corruption. Corruption can be seen from two angles. I think the first is corruption out of need, and then there is corruption out of greed. I mean, if you're driving along, say, Kampala Road, and you wave down by a traffic policeman, and he asks you for lunch, really to him it's corruption out of need. He needs to fend for his family, he needs to put food on the table at home. So I think it's why we would engage in such corruption. But then there's corruption out of greed. Those that have more or have a lot, but still desire to steal even much more. Now, I think the corruption out of need cannot be averted. I think it should become part of life. It's part and parcel of life. Because I mean, it's a willing giver, willing receiver sort of thing. It becomes very hard to stop that one. But the corruption out of greed, I think that's the one that we should focus on. And I think it's the one that the president, Fountain of Honor, has created multiple corruption fighting bodies for. I think under the guise of giving corruption multiple headaches. But I think efforts of that have also eventually proven to be futile. Because you create, there's an IGG that is mandated by the Constitution to fight against corruption as the government, ombudsman, and then you have the State House Anti-Corruption Unit. I heard there is a State House Investors Protection Unit. I think there's also a State House Health Monitoring Unit by Dr. Kamara. So you wonder what all these are doing. And then there is an office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. So you find a lot of cooks spoiling this broth called the fight against corruption. So I think I would look at it just that way. But you see, patriotism is a very broad thing, and it needs to be felt. It cannot just be told to somebody a day or 2 days or a week and they'll get it. They need to be told about it, true, but they need to feel it. And first with the telling them about it, we used to have public discourse at Makere there, at Maiza. The time of the Professor Ali Mazuruis and the Mahmoud Mamdanis, the Professor Samuel Kaljires, people that would talk about things like the state, the nation, the country, the difference between these. He has talked to you about Brigadier Chisembo, that was teaching them about Uganda, the landscape, the geography. Knowing more about your country makes you love it more. So you become more patriotic in due course. And it's amazing. The soldiers are actually conscripted into such things. They're taught such things. You'll be amazed at how much they know Uganda more than we the ordinary people do. They know it from A to Z because it's deliberate. And I think it's this deliberate action that we'd like to see government doing more. I don't think patriotism clubs in schools are as effective as they should be. I don't know, I think they were left or put there as symbolism, but the actual substance out of them really leaves so much to be desired. So I think the patriotism clubs have also not helped us so much. I think the other point is the documentation of history. You know, history is told by victors. And I'm told, and I think I've also seen it for myself, that there has been this deliberate sort of effort to make the young Ugandans as if think that Uganda started from 1986. The books off the shelves on bookshops have been either bought off and no more copies are being printed. All the Ugandans are not getting to know about these things. Things now like the National Library here at Bushanda Road. I mean, when we were young, we would walk to Bushanda Road to go and read some of these books. But because it's ill facilitated, I don't know, it's not the national library we used to know back in the day. So whenever people have no access to such information, it eventually has a bearing on how patriotic they eventually become. So the documentation of history, there's been this deliberate thing to erase. Bishop, I think Baharagate Akiki wrote a book titled Why I Love Idi Amin. You know, and these are books that you cannot find on the shelf today. If you find them, it will be very rare. But these are books that give you the other side of the coin. That, you see, if this man Amin was framed as a tyrant, okay, fine. But what is the other side of the coin? It should be left for the public to judge after having seen both sides of the coin. Yes.
Thank you so much. And you push me then to where I was going. You draw there a little faster. Bushanda, one of the things that should feed the interest of people in their community, in their country, is the information they have about their particular country. And what feeds their information primarily is education. When you look at our education, primary level, kindergarten, okay, primary, secondary, the tertiary institutions we go to, is it the kind of education that trains Ugandans to love their country, to understand their country, like you talked about the soldiers, how they understand the country? Does our education represent that particular element of training us to be the real Ugandans that are going to work for Uganda?
Thank you for that question. Yesterday I was on the streets of the University of Makerere. I greeted a young man, and we were a group of around three. He said, "Be prepared." So I asked him, "Are you prepared?" But I had forgotten that it is a motto for scouts. Is my hobby. Said, "But me, I was a scout in high school. I'm a patriotic." And I said, "Wow, that's very good." I told him, are you prepared for this country? If tomorrow you met someone, can you manage? He said, "I'm still running, but I think I can be prepared." So he's not sure of what is done. But before we even dive into the formal sector, I just want to give 1 minute of we analyze what also the impact of informal sector. You see, those days before the Economist came, we had education which was informal. And this was education which was wholly led by elders of societies from their different places. In this generation, actually you can have both formal and informal sector concurrently running. Because these days, as young people, one, we want to outshine our elders and masters in various societies. You can trust me. This just tell a youth that listen to people like Professor Gumayo in Fort Portal. People will see his history is old. People don't give time to listen to such people. And such people are having the knowledge of this country. And you don't expect Professor Gumayo to come in class and teaches you that. But someone who deliberately go to his place and listen. People like Professor Kanyihamba, people have always gone there. People like, you go to, here in Uganda, we have elders who people listen to and really pick the interest of the country. So even before we blame the formal sector of how it is set, I understand we have loopholes there. But even in informal sector, young people, we have not given chance to exploit the knowledge at disposal. For example, His Excellency the President, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, when he was still young, when they were in the bush, you can list the people he used to consult. And you see, he never consulted jokers. You see, we have jokers in societies. And they were always there to dispose of everyone. But for a few who know that this is a joker, this is a serious citizen of this country. So for us, as this generation, we have taken time to be advised by jokers. And it affects us even in the informal sector, down up in primary, secondary, even campus. But if you look at the people that His Excellency used to consult, people like late Gaddafi, look at people like late Julius Nyerere, many, to mention but a few. These are the people he used to consult and gets what to understand how to, really what is patriotism and what is liberation. He would get the information from the right people. These days, we have schemers around the streets that we feel comfortable if you got a, because the problem I have is that thinking that every member of parliament in that parliament is patriotic. And you think if it is something he understands. I want to assure some members there down there, they don't understand this country. They're just understanding their politics. For them, they're okay to stand up, have the microphone, speak, but they don't have that sense of patriotism in their back of the mind, at the back of the mind. So when it comes to formal sector, I mean formal education, campus and what, he's a graduate, he graduated from Makerere University. He has told you the professor that used to go there at MISE and discuss serious issues. These days, the discussion within us, even the lecturers can't, even the lecturers are young these days. They're discussing more the same like we are discussing. They're discussing how to join the parliament, they're discussing how to be an executive director, they're discussing how to go in deals of getting gold from different countries, they're discussing of how to avoid taxation. That is their discussion. And what do they expect from us who are having more of the time with such people in the same lecture room? Someone comes, before even talks about what Uganda is and why you should love Uganda, says, but this government is bad. You see, when you go to countries like Malaysia, these things are like this. Before you go to Malaysia, as a professor, as a doctor, give me solutions. Say that this country needs ABCD. So don't discuss a personality. The problem we have that currently we are discussing personalities other than discussing the real problems of this country. It would be very, I want to conclude on this, it would be very, very paramount. And I would be very happy to find that we're reaching a time, like I was saying, we're having such professors again. And we meet somewhere and we are discussing, they're telling us what Uganda should be and what Uganda is and what it was. But the problem we have, even in the fireplaces that young people have always gathered around, we are all, there are schemes. Someone organizes a fireplace, wants money, lobbies the ministers to be present, gets 5 million, says, for us we are serving the country. But after that, do we get history from the fireplace, the conversation we had? What do we document from there, like he said? So we are having documentation of what is expected of us. People are just coming up, young people, we're going to have a place, we're discussing cancer. Cancer is an issue, of course, health-wise. But is it the real intent of what? Someone gets 10 million and gets 2 million, buys things, goes to Cancer Institute and serves and said, we worked. You understand? Someone is excited to get money, but is not. But what we are lacking is 2 points before I get to you, back to you, the moderator, is that we need to go back and look for that old guards. They have knowledge for this country. And we need them, by the way. We may think that we have surpassed them, but no. Really, these people, we need them. That's why even before you become a leader, you need orientation. Even before you stand up to be an MP. So that when you're down there and you talk to people like Professor Gumayo, talk to people like the Chief Justice, and they tell you what was the 1995 debate, the Constitutional Assembly, the CA, and you see the kind of debate, afford those things, documentaries, you can go on YouTube and check. You see a very big difference. Why? Those people that were coming for CA, they had the background of the elders. They were shaped in this country to say that this is a country not discussing politics, we're discussing how this country should look like.
Thank you. Thank you so much, and I think you raised very important things and I think he did too, documenting history. It's so saddening every time I'm to read about the history of Uganda, and it is written by someone from Netherlands, someone from all those European countries, and they're writing about Uganda. And indeed, you must understand that whoever writes, there's always, however objective one is, there's always that embedded interest, personal interest, and it can never cease to exist in any piece of writing. So it is important, but also as part of our education, the failure to capture some of the things that matter for this country, the failure to capture, say, the geographical positioning of this country, the futures we have, the lakes, the rivers, the mountains,
the
and
roads.
And
Yes.
and
we still have roads named after speak. We
Yes.
still have roads named after
Yes,
Speak.
I go down here and see
Huntington.
10 Downing Road, and I'm like, okay, 10 Downing. You find very soon we're going to have Trump, Biden roads.
Obama.
Yes, Obama roads. I think Obama is already there. I've seen it somewhere named by KCC. So some of the things, and Ugandans do not understand the value of, for example, having Lake Victoria. What does it mean for the Ugandan economy? What does it mean in terms of
Why don't you call
tourism?
it Lake Naronga
In
Lake
terms
used to
of,
be and
yes,
do Victoria?
they don't understand every time, today, tomorrow, and even next year, even your child will be taught that John Speak discovered River Nile, and they will not be taught anything beyond that. The importance of that River Nile he discovered, they will not be taught. But we shall be taught that how the California aqueduct is so important to that particular part of the country, the prairies, and how important, even when these projects actually no longer exist, because most of the projects that we are being taught are no longer in existence, that British Columbia fishing, the Canadian prairies, and the wheat growing, these are projects that were, rolled out, and they are now off-grid. They are doing completely other things. But this is what we're studying, and I have a signal from my producer. My time is really very, very fast spent, but the conversation about patriotism can be so interesting. Now, gentlemen, as we come to the end, I want you to, in a minute, try to create a picture, try to create a way of how best we can advise, how best we can make things work, how best we can, as Ugandans, rediscover the love for our country and serve and work in the best interest of growing this country to make it what we want to be. I'll start with you, John. How should we, what can we do to make sure this country is that you want to see as John?
Thank you very much, sir.
In a minute.
So my advice is one, and I go back to the government. The government should bring the education and awareness
Yes.
organs, whereby the government should go there and emphasize promote patriotism in schools, institutions, and universities. And right now, for me, I'm happy with my university. Because my university, there at St. Lawrence, they don't allow these political parties during the elections. For me, I'm happy with it. Because you can see, like in Makerere, I was still a fresh at St. Lawrence University, because I started with a higher certificate of education. Then I proceeded with my bachelor's in procurement. So I heard that they killed a student at Makerere due to these political parties. So this one can kill the feelings of the love to this country. So I'm so happy with my university. Without those political parties, you can go and vote anyone you want, and you come back.
Thank
without any
you.
Political parties.
Thank you so much for that. It is interesting point of view from St. Lawrence University. Yes, Agaba.
Yes, thank you very much, Philip. Now, very quickly, one, I think government should reinstate the 6 months of Muchaka that students, Form 6 vacancies should go for as a qualification to enter university. I think government should also reinstate the conscription into national service immediately after campus. You'd be taken to one of the parastatals to work. During that time, the parastatals were still there anyway. Now they are no longer there. But it was a very good idea. It instilled the patriotism. You're working, you're not being paid, but you're working to contribute towards your country. Local tourism. Government should do everything possible to visit local tourism. COVID was a very good litmus test. The foreigners were no longer coming in, and the tourism industry had to entirely depend on the locals. So I think it's also something we should look to. It can enhance patriotism. People get to know more about their country. Mindset change. I'm told in PDM there's a pillar called mindset change. and it has been given a lot of money. Yes, I believe that, see, man reenacts in his mind whatever he sees others doing. And if I see Godwin being patriotic, I automatically become patriotic. It's a spontaneous thing. So I cannot, we were in Kigali in March, and people there don't drop plastic. I mean, you also, as a Ugandan, would feel so bad. You'd feel like what you're doing is abominable for you to dump plastic anywhere, in any way. Job creation. You people, I don't think someone can love their country on an empty stomach. People will love their country if government has created jobs. And it can only create jobs by boosting entrepreneurship, creating very conducive environment for business. So eventually, as I conclude, I think it was this gentleman, Abraham Lincoln, that told the Union Army then, as they were fighting to consolidate America, he told his fellow comrades at arms that, you see, gentlemen, if we win this war, I have nothing to give you. I have nothing to pay you for your service. But if we lose this war, we shall be hanged by the tallest tree. So these people fought with all their energy to ensure that they won the war. This is patriotism at the pinnacle. So, like J.F. Kennedy used to say, that do not ask what your country has done for you, but what you have done for your country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Agaba. And last word, Bushanda. How do we create these powerful men that are able to fight for the unification of America now, for this case, Uganda, East Africa, and by extension, Africa?
Thank you. One, before you go to your question, I want to inform my brother that no one was killed because of a political party. It's a violence, and the politics, even if you're independent, someone can fight with you. So don't say Makerere and because I'm from there. So you can have the first-hand information after this show. We can have a discussion and tell you how political parties are. By the way, you should be worried that you don't have political parties at St. Lawrence. Yeah. Otherwise, you'll be complaining after your university and you have nowhere to belong to. But again, on what should be done, and one thing I want to agree with this gentleman, Agaba, my brother, is that how I wish all from 6 years before you join campus, you have the certificate of really participating in national patriotism. You have it as a mandatory, so that we kill this issue of politicizing everything. If you don't have it, then you can wait, because that's how it is done in Rwanda. In Rwanda, you can't join a university without that certificate. It is a must. Whether you got 20 points or what, you must have it. 2, what we need to do is, we need also to, I think the government should also, I don't know how it can incorporate it and have patriotism as, or it must be put in the curriculum.
Yes, it has to be a subject. And maybe if you allow me, there is this subject, very important, of political science, that over time is pulled down and downstreamed. It used to be an entire discipline. Now it is just a course unit.
You see, now, where you don't believe in political science, the moment you say the word political, then you're not studying patriotism. You see, sometimes where Uganda had reached and where it is now, people all the time studying politics, you would find that there's no any other conversation apart from politics. But how I wish they can bring something like patriotism within the curriculum from primary up to university level, so that people know their country, people know what is expected for you to be patriotism, to be a patriotic person, and even you do it like, sometimes I wonder, actually May would substitute, I can have patriotism like as GP. Why do you have GPs? Sure. And you don't have anything, any lesson about patriotism? You are studying history, Bonaparte's and what, those words they always say. But even if you were in science class, even if you were in arts, you need this patriotism lectures. So as I conclude, this is what should be done. I think also as young people, we need to go back and look for these elders, opinion leaders, not masqueraders on the streets, not jokers. Look at the opinion leaders, we inquire from them and have this history from them and know what exactly is needed. So otherwise, mentorship is key in everything, by the way. It's key. But again, we need to know which people do we go to for mentorship, not mentorship of how to abuse people and burn tires on the roads. That's not mentorship. We need mentorship that actually builds the country, national cohesion. Yeah, I think that's what I can say.
Bushanda Godwin, thank you so much for the views and thank you so much for joining us today. Ivan Agaba, thank you so much for the amazing views and for joining us today. And Kigemuzi John, thank you so much for your views and for joining us today. And you, our viewers, thank you so much for keeping it the Youth Roundtable on Civic Space TV. I am Phillip Muliisa. Special thanks to the Center for Constitutional Governance for empowering us, and special thanks to the team behind the machines, my producer and the entire crew behind the machines. We appreciate you so much. At Civic Space, we continue to call for peace in all regions of the world that are in turmoil. Sudan, DR Congo, talk about Gaza, talk about Iran, talk about Ukraine. You can talk about Mali, Niger, talk about Burkina Faso, the turmoil that is in those places, Mozambique, and all the places on this planet that do not have peace. We call for peace and we say, whichever force that is able to put a semblance of peace in those places should actually move and make sure there is something happening. Thank you for being with us. A good evening, and may you have freedom always.